What's up, everybody? 3x to the Lex, right back at you with one more video. Let's get into it. All right, today I'm here to talk to you about my experiences with using hyperspin versus using retropie. Now, I have a lot of experience with both. A lot more experience actually with hyperspin. I've been using retropie the last couple months, and I like it. And I like hyperspin also, but I really want to get off into some of the more nuanced details of both front ends. For one, hyperspin's a lot more demanding front end for retro gaming. It's got animated intros for all of the games that take up the full screen and last several seconds. And it's nice. I like it. The setup of it while using it with the PC, I have noticed some inconsistencies with it. Some videos like the glitch when playing the intro video to the game, and there's also a delay when switching from game to game. It isn't quite as seamless as using retropie. Also, my experience using the hyperspin setup and running these games off of the PC is that I've noticed a lot of inconsistent performance with a lot of the games. Like, I've had a lot of games just freeze, just to freeze, while you have something on pause and you say you want to rework the controls. You go in and you pause the game, and and then when you adjust the controls and you try to get back into the game's frozen and you can't, and you have to start over. So that's something that's happened fairly often when using hyperspin. There's a lot of inconsistencies with that. It hasn't been as smooth as my experience with retropie, that's for sure. And I mean, retropie, the front end emulator is a lot more basic than hyperspin. Hyperspin is certainly more ambitious, but everything has been really, really seamless. I haven't had any games freeze. I haven't had it ever freeze up in the front end and just become unresponsive, which is something that happens with hyperspin, fairly often. It's just been, menu access and access speeds is much, much faster. Starting up games, the games boot up faster. Again, a lot of that has to do too with, the retropie setup running SD versus using a regular 7200 RPM standard hard drive for the hyperspin setup. So, that has a big effect on performance also. I mean, if I had a choice to choose, I prefer the retropie setup over the hyperspin setup. The hyperspin setup has more content, but if I had a choice between the two, front end wise for the games, I prefer the retropie. It's just more streamlined. It's easier to find stuff, and I also preference RetroArch too. RetroArch for like adjusting like the screen filters, and also like screen resolution, and also like the controls. I just find that to be a lot more intuitive than adjusting a lot of those things in hyperspin in the Windows based setup. So don't get me wrong, like I still like that, and I don't think overall like a hyperspin PC setup is bad, but I'm not really surprised that I've seen as many issues with the Megacade software wise as I've seen. Owning a separate hyperspin system, it's not really that big of a surprise for me. Also, something I like about retropie better is just just the boot up time from start to finish is it's a lot faster. Like even when you're just cutting on the system for the first time, I mean, from the time you get into the menu from startup, it's just a lot quicker than a hyperspin setup, than my hyperspin setup. And once you're in, like selecting games, moving out of menus, going to other platforms, it's just a lot faster. It's a lot more streamlined. And I really believe like the future, and I mentioned this in a previous video, but the future of retro gaming is going to be these small bore computers, either connected to a SSD or an SD card like it is now. The SD card formats are constantly improving. They're only getting faster. And like the access speeds and the seamlessness of it, like once you get used to that, you kind of almost don't want to go back to using the hyperspin setup. It's just the content is not all the way there yet, and there's a lot of games and platforms that's not yet on RetroPie, or the Pi isn't capable of producing quality results with those particular games or platforms. But I say we're probably a good 2 RetroPies away or so. By the time we get to RetroPie 6 and 8 terabyte SD cards, high-speed SD cards are the norm for a good price, I mean, that's going to really be like the ultimate setup. Like at that point, it'll really be no real reason to use a PC. Much quieter. The Pi is a lot quieter. Boot up time, access speeds. At that point, the hardware will be at the point where we'll be able to support all of the platforms that's out now, and all of the older arcade games, all of the consoles, all those will be able to be supported at full speed by then. Like the Pi 4 alone closed the gap a lot. Before on the 3, the Dreamcast games were really choppy. N64 was like a stone's throw. A lot of PlayStation games were like really running slow. But this, like Pi 4 has been like a big upgrade. Like a lot of the Dreamcast games are running smooth. Pretty much all the old arcade classics are good. A lot of the old platforms are good. All of the PlayStation games are running full speed. Some of the N64 games still seem to have some issues. So it's still a ways to go. But I think we're probably a good solid 3 years or so away from really coming to that reality of having that sort of dream Pi 6 setup with multi-terabyte SD card. So anyway, those are my initial thoughts of running a hyperspin versus RetroPie. Those are my initial thoughts on running the 2 front ends on this arcade machine. So I'm going to update this soon. I'm going to have a follow-up video where I go a little bit more into detailing the differences in the access speeds between solid state hard drives and SD card setups, and also versus traditional hard disk drive, 7200 RPM hard disk drive. So until then, 3x to the Lex, and I'm going to catch you on the next one. Peace.